Just when we are about to use a product, thinking we have enough of it to last for weeks, we found out that we've been just hit with another shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is not a myth, and more popular brands need to be avoided as they have discovered a new way to steal money from customers. Americans' most popular skincare brand Dove often takes first place for products like deodorants, body, hair, or facial care products, loved by many and hated by few, beating revenue targets almost every year. But in the past, Dove faced a great risk. The Dove Innovation Lab had to gather around the drawing board with scientists and marketers. The challenge was clear: how to deal with inflation and rising costs of production without compromising quality. The scientists and marketers came up with a solution, but it required a sacrifice on the customer's side. First, the original size of Dove soap was 4 ounces, which is 113 grams. Then they reduced it to 3.75 ounces, which is 106 grams. And finally, to an all-time low size of 3.17 ounces, which is 90 grams. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is shrinkflation. Dove management makes decisions based on the increased production cost by reducing the product in size, making it smaller and smaller. If we continue on the same course of shrinkage, by 2040 we would have just 1 ounce of Dove, and that is nearly the equivalent of those tiny soaps you can find in hotels. So I started digging for information that discovered thousands of people posting evidence online about various products on community websites like Reddit. And among them are some products that I have used for many years. But until I made this video, I've never actually noticed that some of my products from the brands I trusted are getting smaller and smaller. And my body didn't get smaller, but I need to buy more soap. My breakfast bowl didn't get smaller, but I have to buy more cornflakes. My dog didn't shrink in size, and I have to buy more dog food. I suspect that if I didn't notice as a marketer, then most other people didn't notice either. And then I realized that's exactly what these brands want me to do.
Instead of increasing prices, some manufacturers shrink the size of their packages just a little bit and hope you won't notice.
That's how shrinkflation works. It's when companies make products smaller little by little, but they charge you the same price as before, or sometimes even more. If they were to increase the price, they know that people might suddenly not want to buy the product. But there are levels of how you can do that, and some of these brands which I cover in this video I find unacceptable. Toblerone. Toblerone chocolate is known for its distinctive triangle peaks, the symbol of the Swiss Alps. The company wanted to preserve its quality without raising prices, and so what they did was really smart. Instead of making the chocolate bar shorter, which could be noticed by customers, they widened the gaps between the chocolate's iconic peaks. As you can see, each of these images proves that the gap between the triangles has been getting wider and wider over the years. Missing triangles are likely not a designer feature or a product innovation. The reason is inflation. The short explanation of why we have inflation is that the government needs money, but taxpayers like you and me refuse to pay more taxes. And so the government orders banks to print a lot of money. More money in the system is bad. The money loses value. So you spend the same amount of money, but because it's worth less, you can't buy as much as you are used to. And that leads to fewer triangles in your chocolate. But companies are not forced to shrink the products. They could have easily increase the price instead. In December 2023, a report was released showing the impact of inflation on paper products in the supermarket. The paper products that cost $100 in 2019 cost in 2023 $135. But the very same products also shrank in size by 10%. That means that if you calculate the dollar to gram value, the true price is actually $150, which is a 50% increase. At this point, I'm just waiting for YouTube to shrink the subscribe button so that you can follow me. Let me know in the comments if you found that button and clicked on it. Even my newsletter about exponential brands never shrinks. Feel free to subscribe for that. And here are the brands I found that changed the price, packaging, or value of their products. Heinz organic tomato ketchup, 14 ounces bottle, could be bought last year for $3.79, but this year it's $4.38, or 1 liter of Listerine, which was $6.29 before, is now $7.33. I'm using US prices here, but the principles applies to everyone. It doesn't matter where you are from. Every country has inflation. The next, we have 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola, which was previously $2.49 and is now $2.68. Prices are much higher today than before, and while that sucks, the products I just mentioned are at least being more transparent. They are simply more expensive and they don't hide it, and you can't do much about it. But then you have brands that, let's say, do things a little bit differently. Gatorade, Colgate, Garnier, Doritos, and others. These brands are using powerful techniques to increase the price of the product without people noticing. A sports drink Gatorade, a brand of PepsiCo, changed the packaging of their product.
The old size was 32 ounces. The new one, which is over here, is 28. So you lost over 12%.
How could it be when the bottle is still the same height? Well, if you look closely, the bottle is trimmed on the sides, and when you turn the bottle upside down, you can see that it uses a cleverly designed bottom, which increases the height of the bottle but still not contain any liquid. This is not the only example. Nutella serves its breadsticks in a practical box. Maybe a bit more practical for Nutella management than customers. And noodles cups are the story by itself. It's not about the unused space in the container, which kind of makes me mad, but after I did some research, I found out that it's there to protect the noodles from getting crushed. Okay, but let's focus on the real problem. The fake bottom on these containers. That's the real problem. This should be considered a deceptive packaging, which is a commonly used marketing technique. And then there is Colgate, a brand guilty of overpackaging. Like many other toothpaste brands, Colgate decided to sell already packaged toothpaste inside another package. You know, the useless cardboard box that you only throw away the second you take the product out of the grocery bags. Overpackaging is an extremely powerful technique to manipulate customers. Mostly, it is used by brands that plan to change the value of the product over time. The outside box size remains the same, but the product inside of the box is shrinking. That's exactly what Colgate did in this example when their product went from 100 milliliters to 75 milliliters. And another great example of broadly accepted overpackaged products are cereals. It's impossible to buy a box of cereals that is filled to the top. The cereal boxes are always half empty. And I don't buy these anymore, thanks to discoveries I made about the sugar marketing techniques in this video. Many people would think that potato chips brands are also using overpackaging, and that would be only partially right. Chips are packaged with so much space because it's filled with nitrogen that prolongs the shelf life and protects the fragile chips against being crushed. But with cereals, it's mostly marketing and psychology. And some brands actually shrink their products the right way. They do not use a deceptive packaging or overpackaging. A good example of that is Garnier Fructis, using an acceptable approach. The product's original size was 250 milliliters and shrank to 200 milliliters. The important part is, it's clear from the packaging. Not every brand is honest like that. Ajax spray shrank by 25 milliliters and the bottle stayed the same, completely mystifying their loyal customers. If you think there are only a few companies that do this, here are some of the products you likely buy today that use these deceptive techniques. Downy Unstoppable, seemingly the same size, but 20% has been cut from the product. And this one blew me away. Salad mix with the same box with 30% less of the salad. Oh wait, there's something written on the package. 32% less of plastic. They will tell you that, but not that there is 30% less of the product. I think you are getting the idea. You must avoid these brands. Some of these examples are straight up lies, and companies that start with lies will never stop lying. It's in their DNA. Don't get me wrong, increasing the price is fine. Testing a new size of a product is fine, but upsizing the packaging so they could then shrink the content inside year over year is straight up lying. And you can say, well, there are grams on the packaging, so you can't say that they're lying. No, there are levels of lying. These brands could have increased the price, but they chose not to. They could adjust the size of the packaging, but they chose not to. As a consumer, I don't want to check the grams every time I buy my favorite brand just to be sure they didn't shrink the product since the last time I went shopping. M&M's, the package with the fewer M&M's got even bigger. The volume of the Lipton chicken noodle soup was cut by 30%, and yet the box stayed the same. Crest 3D white toothpaste got smaller and more expensive. Frosted Flakes, Old Spice, Sour Patch Kids, Ajax spray and Ritz, all of them have the same package size but less product inside. I can go on, and brands that don't respect you don't deserve our trust, and this is why you should completely avoid them. They for sure will inform you that there is 20% more of that product, but they are not going to tell you that there is 20% less of it. If they took a biscuit out, you should know. If you think deceptive packaging and shrinkflation is a nasty marketing technique, then you have to see this video about luxury brands and their clever ways of sucking money out of people for mostly overpriced and overrated goods. So when I told you there are levels of lying, this is the next level.